Hey, everybody, September 14th, 2020. Welcome to the Real Kyper at Noon show. I'm Nick Kypreos. It's amazing what one weekend can do. We left on a Friday thinking that we've got a great series intact. And yet we wake up on this very Monday and we find both teams down 3-1 in the series, the conference final, of course, going on in the National Hockey League. And much like the last round, what would we call that? The semifinals of the conferences. We had 4 teams. We had 8 teams. We had 4 series, all down 3-1. And yet, we know the writing's on the wall when you're up or down 3-1 in the series. We kind of know how it's going to turn out. We did manage 3 Game 7s out of that. Of course, we're talking about the Islanders and the Flyers, Vegas and Canucks, Dallas and the Avs. All those series went to 3-1. We managed to get a Game 7. So I got to think that we got to be in for 1 out of 2 going into this Monday with both Vegas and the New York Islanders down 3-1 in the series. And I think if you look at the history of conference finals, and this goes back to 1982, 35 3-1 leads, and the record's 34-1. 34-1 that the team up 3-1 closes it out. Let's bring in Doug Maclean from Summerside PEI. This is Monday. We're going to wrap up the series, plus get into a few other things, including, of course, we're going to go heavy on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mac has been that type of guy that every once in a while likes to give the Leafs a bit of a shot. And, of course, we got to look at the jersey in the back of him right now and know for sure, with the thumbnail being how to fix the Leafs, that he would line up a jersey with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, Mac, just a quick comment on your jerseys before we start getting into the Toronto Maple Leafs. And starting this week, we want to go around a little bit towards across the country and cover a few teams that what we would do to fix them. And yes, Montreal Canadian fans, your team's on tap as well. So don't worry about that. But the focus will be on the Toronto Maple Leafs. But before we get into that, we're going to get into the conference final and what happened on the weekend. But, Mac, I did notice that the Leaf jerseys lined up tonight for you.
Well, I just wanted to put it up there because obviously we are going to chat about the Leafs later in the show. And obviously that's always exciting to everybody. So I wanted to show my loyalty to the Leafs and get that jersey up there. The only caveat to that is I put the Orr jersey next to it because to really fix the Leafs, they may need an Orr type of player to come in and help that blue line. So, I just thought I would throw the Orr up there as just something to dream about. We know we don't have an Orr yet in the organization, but who knows? They've got a new extra first-round pick this year. Some people say they may move it, but maybe they get lucky. But that's just to fire up the Leaf fans and let them know that we're thinking about them here in PEI.
With Seattle, by the way, that would make 32 teams looking for a Bobby Orr type of defenseman, by the way, right?
Yes, I think so.
And there's clearly not enough room on that wall for all 32 jerseys.
But as Leaf fans know, they are, the Canada's dream team, and they should have the first chance at the next Orr. He shouldn't be going to Boston.
Okay, Mac, I just spoke moments earlier about the uphill mountain to climb for teams that are down 3-1. I mentioned just one since 1981-82. They've been able to come back in a conference final down 3-1. Do you remember which game, which series?
Was it Philadelphia and Boston?
No, close though.
Yes,
I'll give you full credit for that.
That was 3-0. That series was, I believe.
Yes,
Philly
that's right.
Came back. Yes,
that's right. But I don't think it was a conference final, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not.
No, not a conference final. But you're right. Funny how you would know for sure New Jersey would be in the mix.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, Philadelphia. New Jersey was the one that was in the mix. Yes. You had the Philadelphia Flyers right. And that one, Mac, including that devastated hit Scott Stevens on Eric Lindros, and if I'm not mistaken, that was the last game that Eric Lindros ever played for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow! And was that a hit? Now, would that be would that be a 5-minute major today? Would that be a life suspension, or would it be 3 games? But in the playoffs, maybe just 1 game because they have that ratio.
What's the ratio? Anything that would cost you a regular season is 1 playoff game.
Yeah, I think it's 4-1. It depends on whatever the ruling makes. Then they say, well, it is the playoffs. You got to change a ratio.
I have it at 82-1.
Yeah,
for every 82 regular season games is like the equivalent to 1 playoff game.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mac,
they say 4-1 maybe.
We look at both conference final right now, and a vastly different feel, where we believe that the Islanders are in a place they probably should be. Vegas isn't. So why don't we start with the East and the New York Islanders and the uphill climb? What did you see on the weekend? And I include the 5-3 win Friday because it seemed like the Islanders took advantage of no Brayden Point in the lineup and were able to get depth scoring out of their lineup. For the one exception, Mac, the Barzal line wasn't a huge contributor. They didn't need it Friday, but they needed it Sunday. And unfortunately for Islander fans, that line was nowhere to be seen.
Well, look, obviously 5-3 win, no Brayden Point. We've come to find out, going back to game 1 of the playoffs, how valuable Brayden Point is to this hockey team. And I know Coach Cooper says, well, we've played without him before. But, yeah, you may have played without him before, but you can't play without him now. No Brayden Point. The Islanders had a little life. Obviously, Nelson has a big game. Nelson's line is a big game. They were better. But yesterday's game, to me, Point comes back. And you know what? They go up 1-0. Nelson scores a terrific goal. I mean, what a play he makes on that goal to give them a lead. And then, are you kidding me? They give up 2 goals in the next, 25 seconds? Like a loop-de-loop from Gord on the blue line to Coleman. First of all, Coleman's line and Gord's line is on the ice for the goal against by Nelson, and they weren't very good on it.
Yeah.
Cooper
No, they got caught. They got caught cheating. They got caught cheating.
Yeah, flying the zone. Cooper leaves them back on the ice, and they score the next one on the loop-de-loop to Coleman from Gord, and all of a sudden it's 1-1, and then the big line go to work within a few seconds. It's over. 2-1, and it's over. Disappointing segment for the Islanders to get beat like that on defensive miscues that this team has built its identity on. What they built their identity on was good defensive plays. We saw Kucherov with that seam pass from McDonough. Great play, but a wide open chance to win that game. I mean, we've seen the Islanders not be as sharp defensively, but with all due respect, Tampa Bay, that big line is so damn good, it's unbelievable. So good. And it doesn't just end with Point and Kucherov, as we saw yesterday and we've seen throughout the playoffs. Palat has been a star for that line as well.
Well, I look at that play, and one thing that stood out to me was the fact that that Coleman and Gord did get caught cheating on the Nelson goal.
Yeah.
And yet, Mac, I've been in scenarios when, I've screwed up, my line mates have screwed up, and we'd be going, okay, you go back to the bench first because I don't want to deal with my coach. And it's like we're pushing each other to go back first so they can take the shit from the head coach right on the play. John Cooper leaves them out there.
Yeah, big time, big play, big move. Do you think he did it on purpose, or he was just so mad he couldn't say the next lines up? He was so pissed off at them.
I would say that John Cooper has that much faith in the guys, and I do buy into Coop's theory that it's not about a play, it's about the game, and he said that in his post-game comments. But Mac,
he wasn't saying that in the Columbus series. He's changed since then, and he definitely wasn't saying that in last year's Columbus serit, but now he is.
I want to give that line and Tampa Bay so much credit for coming back. And what did it take? All but I don't know, 15 seconds between
15 seconds.
15 seconds between goals.
Yeah.
But how do you let Gord, with one pass, one flip, whatever you want to call that,
beat five guys?
Five guys. And I think it was Taves on the back end, and maybe Mayfield. How do you allow Coleman to get behind you on that play? That, to me, that just breaks down the Islander identity with one split second. You can't have one pass beat five guys and then get caught flat-footed. You don't deserve to win. Yes, single plays can come back and haunt you in a 60-minute game. That was it right there.
Well, that's what we talked about. I mean, their identity has been built on just this great defensive system. We watched the Florida Panthers not be able to get through the neutral zone and make a play. We watched the Washington Capitals not be able to get through the neutral zone effectively to make plays and seams being taken away. And yet in this series, and look, you've got to give credit to the talent of the Tampa Bay Lightning that they are affecting this. But the big line, you cannot let them get 10 points in one game and 6 points in another game. I mean, you have got to be better as a team defense to at least, you're not going to stop them. No. You're dreaming if you think you're going to stop them. But you got to slow them down a little bit.
If you are, you got to be pumping on all cylinders here.
Right.
And the Islanders, Mac, they look to me like they are a very tired club. Mentally, physically, they look spent right now. Absolutely spent. And when you, again, with their identity, Mac, when you start giving up the middle of the ice so easy, and you look at Point, Kucherov, and Palat, when you allow those guys coming through the middle of the ice to keep the middle of the ice and have both options instead of forcing to one side and closing it off, you're done. Brayden Point, Kucherov, and Palat owned the middle of the ice against the Islanders, and when they were out there, Barzal's a tired guy right now.
Well, look, he's a kid. Eberle has always had some issues at playoff time, but he's a playmaker. And Lee looks spent to me, and Lee has been very, very good. That big line has not scored. I mean, they have not scored in this series, have they? And not only that, but Eberle scored in I believe it was game one on a power play.
On a power play. That's been the only one, Mac. They haven't
got a power play goal since, and that's your number one unit. Barry was ticked off. He plays his second unit last night when they were down 2-1, trying to get something going on his power play. So the power play is not scoring. The big line's not scoring. But look, here's the difference for me. I watched Hedman play 29. When have you heard 7 defensemen dressed in a game?
And one plays 30, half the game.
And one guy plays 29. And then the rest of them, McDonough was 17, Shattenkirk and Sergachev, they're in the 16 to 18 range. So what you've got is you've got a fresh McDonough shutting down. You've got a Hedman, a horse shutting down. They have not ran into this type of blue line.
Wow.
Washington Capitals blue line and Florida Panther blue line were not even close to this blue line.
Well,
from experience and star power.
And I buy in. I buy into Barzal being a kid here, but Mac, he's never going to be a power guy. He's never going to be a guy that you consider a horse. He'll be a dynamic player. in many ways, I remember, a Denny Savard, that type of skill, the ability to, cut and lose a
Mhm.
player on a one-on-one. He has
Yeah.
that, but there is no power in that number one line. And
No.
Anders Lee is the biggest, strongest guy on the line, but his eff- his ability to be effective comes in the blue paint when pucks are being funneled in there, which they're not on a regular basis now. And as far as Jordan Eberle is concerned, Mac, nice player,
Yeah.
but no power in his game, no force, there isn't. Is he a number one
Skill.
guy? Is he a
No,
number one guy,
no.
Jordan Eberle?
No, he's a number two guy on a he's a number two guy to help with the skill in your top six. That's what he is to me, but not a power guy. We know that he's not a power guy, but I'll tell you what, you got to give Eberle full marks. He made a lot of plays. This top line made a lot of plays until they hit Tampa Bay. But just let me touch on this. John Cooper got lucky last year when he lost 4 straight to Columbus because he got a chance to wake his team up and become more than just an offensive bunch of players. All of a sudden, there's a whole different buy-in with this group because they got their asses kicked last year by Columbus. And all of a sudden, there's a different mentality. There's a different buy-in. John Cooper's job could have been in jeopardy. He was under a ton of pressure. So full marks to Cooper, full marks to the players for the buy-in, full marks to the GM for making a couple of subtle changes to help their grit. They're a different team, Kip. Okay. They're a different team. So, we got to give credit where credit's due here, and Tampa Bay deserve a little of it right now.
You had me until you said subtle changes, and Coleman and Goudreau are not subtle changes, Mac. Those were impactful, expensive, impactful moves that have really. We're going to look back and we're going to say those were the difference makers, Mac, in changing the look of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
But I'm going to tell you something. We're going to get into the Leafs soon in the second half of the show. If they don't make some changes, this is an unbelievable lesson to Kyle Dubas. When you see the way Gord has played, when you see the way this line has played as a third line compared to how the Leafs third line played, because that third line of the Leafs really pisses me off the way they play.
Would you just relax on the Leafs right now?
Well, I guess I should.
Back off.
I got them on a cheap hanger too. But anyway, look, we'll get into that later. But you're right. This third line, and you know what? It was a big price paid. A big price paid for Coleman. They gave up a first-round pick and foot for this guy.
And Goudreau, too.
And Goudreau. Big price for both.
I don't even think Doug Wilson wanted to trade him. Breezeball sat on that for about a month and a half on Goudreau.
Big time. And look at his contract. He was at $1 million. Remember, Doug Wilson did this contract, and we thought, what the hell is Goudreau doing signing $1 million contract coming off the season he had a couple of years ago? Well, now his payday comes up, but unfortunately, he's with Tampa Bay, and their salaries are tight.
Yeah, big difference now in the lineup as well. That the grit isn't left to your third and fourth liners. Mac, Brayden Point's shown me a lot here. He's in pain. He is in pain, and I'm only guessing here, but over my years of experience, I gotta think he's dealing with ribs. Cartilage, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
He looks to me like he's barely hanging on. He might even have some issues breathing on the bench, but he's in excruciating pain at times out there, and they're taking healthy runs. Matt Martin took a real good run at him.
Not hard enough.
Well, he's bending, but he ain't breaking.
Oh, this kid, and Cooper mentioned that they're managing him well. They cannot use him in the next game. They got to get him out of there. They're up 3-1. They've got to rest him, because if they get through this series, they're going to need him in the next round with the big bodies they're going to be going against in the next round. So they will be smart here. They will be smart, but how good and how much respect has Brayden Point? I mean, he's always had tremendous respect in that dressing room. He's had respect in the hockey world. But this guy has gone to another level for me. I'm sorry. He's a guy that makes them go.
Well,
Palat's a star. Palat is steady.
Yeah.
You love playing with Palat. You love having Palat on your line. But what this guy brings to the table, and then Kucherov feeds off them,
That's the sign of a great player and a superstar, when you stop talking about how great their talent is, or even their offensive contributions, and then you start turning the conversation as how good does he make other players around him. And that's where Point is at his game, and he did it again last night at what, 65%, 70%. I think he guilts Kucherov on nights where he could easily take the night off.
Yeah,
but it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and going, if I don't show up now and this guy's going like this, he's going to make me look really bad here. And I think he guilts Kucherov into playing great almost every night now.
And as we said the other day, he plays between the dots. He plays between the dots in the offensive zone, this guy. He makes plays, but he goes to the tough areas. He plays below the goal line. He is a battler, and he scores big goals, big plays. That 3-1 goal, a beautiful play, but he's there to put it home. I'm just blown away by how good he is. And again, we go back to the draft, 79th pick. I had some people say, well, the Drouin for Sergachev trade may be as good a trade. And I'm thinking, no, the trade to move up one pick in the draft for a 7th round pick to get Point is the best trade in Tampa Bay history. Forget this. I love the Sergachev for Drouin too, by the way, but it doesn't compare to what Point means to this team.
There is some talk about Stamkos, and I know they ruled him out officially in this series, but Mac, when you look at the months behind him, and I'm not going to get ahead and start thinking about Tampa Bay in a final just yet, but you wonder now with the success that Cooper's had with 11-7, and the 7D that you just mentioned.
Yeah,
that's not an easy decision even to pull off the 7th defenseman, and you assume that might be Luke Schenn to throw.
It would be for
Stamkos,
me.
But
it would be for me an easy decision.
It would, eh? Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Luke's battled, and he's given them some toughness when they need it with Martin and Johnson and so on. He's given them some bite. He's done that, but it would be a pretty easy decision.
Well, and Stamkos is such a great athlete. You assume as long as he's healthy that all you may need is just one goal or one big play out of him.
But the other thing is the management of their back end. Hedman at 29 minutes. There's lots left in Shattenkirk. There's lots left in Sergachev. There's lots left in the other guy. To get their minutes up a little bit to make up for Luke Schenn's 10 minutes. And that's where he is most nights, in that 10-minute range.
Okay, let's switch gears to the Western Conference. Are you going to be okay if we don't mention the Leafs in this segment, because you couldn't do it in the East? You're like a kid at Christmas. You just can't wait to rip open the presents here. Can you just hold off on the Leaf chat until we get through the West?
Yeah, I'm fine on not saying anything about the Leafs, but I'm trying to drive numbers here, so I want to get to them as soon as possible.
Well, here's a number for you here, and Vegas doesn't like it. 3-1. How can you look at this series and not figure out real quick that Vegas isn't the better team in this series? And I can't recall ever seeing the ice tilted this much and a team being down 3-1.
Well, for all my analytics friends out there, they're dominating in Corsi, and they're dominating in Fenwick, and they're dominating in puck possession, and they can dominate in those 3 areas till the cows come home. But they've got to dominate around the front of the net. And that means they've got to get more scoring chances on Houdini, and they've got or Hudobin, They got to get more chances on Houdini.
Houdini.
That was I stole that. A guy on Twitter had Houdini.
Okay, so you didn't come up with that.
No, I didn't.
All
but
right.
anyway,
I like it though. Credit to the guy on Twitter.
Oh no, the guy on Twitter, yeah, that was a great one. But anyway, Houdini, they've got it. Look, I know he's been spectacular. Hudobin and net has been spectacular. But they're not getting as crisp and clean a chances as we've seen. Yes, the Fenwick. Yes, the Corsi. Yes, the puck possession. Yes, this. Yes, that. But until they get to the paint and don't get manhandled by this Dallas blue line, Hudobin's going to keep doing his job. Because this back end, it's a combination of Hudobin and the Dallas defense that have done a great job. And your boy, who you absolutely love and rave about nonstop, Pacioretty, he's got to score a goal for them. And Marchessault and Riley Smith. I mean, and Stone is banged up for me. He's played his ass off. Stone has played so hard. He's just, to me, but some of these other guys who have been really successful there can't find the net right now. Well, that's Smith, Marchessault, Pacioretty, and even Stone to a degree can't find the net, and that's really frustrating. You're right. They played well, Nick, but they've got to be better at getting second opportunities and second chances.
They're not in. They're not in for second or third attempts, and that has to be a little troublesome for Peter DeBoer. And there is at times a little bit too much of a perimeter play, Mac, in this series. But you got to think if they have a moment like Tampa Bay where they're able to string a couple of goals, and they had 1-0 lead isn't enough. They got to if they can get a couple of quick goals, or if they can get 2 in a row, then they change this. But there is a sense here, Mac, that if any team's going to come back 3-1, it's going to be Vegas here.
Oh yeah, I'm not counting them out. They play too hard. They've got good talent. Their goaltending hasn't been the problem. Their defense, to me, I'm still not sold on their blue line. I've been saying that, but they have not broke their back end. So look, they're not. I don't disagree that they can come back in this series.
You're right. You cannot have a breakdown. And I look at that Pavelski backhand goal there, where
a little fluky.
I know, but
breakdowns.
McNabb's along the wall is flat-footed. Nate Schmidt ends up giving the puck away, but he's flat-footed here. And that, to me, is going to be the key if Vegas gets back in this series, is how is, outside of Shea Theodore, the rest of the blue line going to act here?
Right.
And, I mean, Martinez got a big goal, but he is still not what we saw in L.A. and providing that strong depth second pairing.
And listen to this, though, and I'll just give Pacioretty hasn't scored in 6.5 games. Marchessault hasn't scored in 10 games. Smith hasn't scored in 10 games. Tuck has got 1 in 8 games. That's their firepower. So we go back to the Islander chat. It's the very same here. You know, are those guys going to let Hudobin win the Conn Smythe here? Because that's where imagine a 34-year-old backup is now in the Conn Smythe conversation with how he's played and how the Stars defense has played. I mean, look, so it's not going to be easy to come back. But Pavelski scored the other night on the team halfway through the second period. That was Dallas's 7th shot on net in the game. So, it's not over. It's not over.
Okay, and we're gonna boost that game up as well. Jordan or Joe, if you're out there, we're gonna do a Kyper boost here. We are in the thought process that this one is not ending tonight, and that Vegas can find their way to crack Houdini.
Yeah, we're here, man.
All right, so we're gonna boost that game up, right?
Yeah, we got 3 actually for you guys tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're really, it's Monday. We're trying to be positive. Everyone lost
Yes,
all
we
their
are.
bankrolls during NFL yesterday, myself included. So we're trying to keep it positive. So we got the money line for the Vegas Golden Knights. It was
That's
at
right.
minus 185. Now it's at minus 150. So giving you a lot of value there. Joe's more of a math guy, but I think that's like 20% of implied value. Not my area. The next one that we're doing is another goal scorer, Riley Smith, to score.
I like Riley Smith.
Yep.
I went with Riley Smith because he's an original. He's been in scenarios where I think you can look at him as being as reliable as any player in the history of in their short history in Vegas, outside of the backup goalie now in Fleury. And I think he's going to find a way to put the puck in the net and maybe turn this thing around as early as tonight.
So BlitzBet hopes that you're wrong. It was originally at plus 235. Now for you all, it's plus 300. So that's a really solid boost there. Get yourself a nice latte tomorrow or something along those lines. The last one, the coup de grace, as they say.
Yes, over or under, Mac. We're going to go with the under. You okay with that?
What's that mean?
That means that we're going to see less than probably five and a half goals?
Less than 6 goals. The under is
less than
5.5.
Yeah, we're getting less than 6 goals for sure.
Okay.
So we got that. It was at minus 156. Now it's at minus 140. Good luck out
All
there.
right.
And always, as always, play responsibly.
Thank you, Jordan. And just one note, if you're going to put your loony on anything tonight, make sure it's on blitzbet.eu, because that instantly gets you in a contest for Harley Davidson that we will be giving out at the end of the year. Only 1 entry per bet, but you can go every day and put a bet in, and your odds go up. And I can't wait to do that. And that announcement will come after the Stanley Cup final. And no, Mac, we've ruled you ineligible to win the Harley Davidson.
It's okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm more of a scooter type of guy now. The little scooters. What are they called? I forget. My good friend Bruce Hickey has one. Vespa. I'm a Vespa guy now.
Vespa.
Yeah, I'm not a Harley guy, but I mean, good. Hey, I'd love to be a Harley guy, but as you mature, you become more of a Vespa guy. With the little thing on the back to go and pick up your groceries.
And by the way, was that Bruce crying like a baby for rent before the show started?
Oh yes.
Like,
yeah.
Did you tell him times are tough?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. You ready to dive in for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Are you going to fix the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No, I mean, we're going to try to help fix them.
Okay.
Dubas is the guy, and Brendan Shanahan are the guys that are going to fix the Leafs.
Okay.
Listen, the biggest question is, do they think they need fixing? That's the number one question, is do they think they need fixing?
They know they do. The question is, will they go outside and listen to the Real Kyper Noon show for advice, or will they say, no, we've got this on our own?
Listen,
if they're smart, we know what they'll do.
There's people that are out there that are given this type of advice that are getting paid a ton of money. I'm not sure we should be doing this. We should be on a retainer to help out with it. But look, fixing the Leafs is
Hold on.
It's a fun challenge.
Okay, so before we start, maybe you going into some details with some names on the roster, I want to ask you a question in terms of how did it go from looking so positive, and we know they went right to the bottom. They managed to get the first pick overall. It was strategic. We know that. So how did you go from having a handful of top 10 picks, including first pick overall, to really getting into this mess? And we're all under the assumption that the Leafs are in a cap mess right now. So where were the turning points for you from going from such a team with so much promise to a team that really has to reset, if that's the proper term to use?
Well, look, it with the Matthews pickup with number 1 overall. However it was done was a great pickup. You've got yourself a young player that's got just amazing potential to be a star in the league. That was fine. I liked all that. I love that. I love the Marner pick. You know, I love the fact that he was picked at 6 overall. I love the Marner acquisition. They already had Nylander, who was known as a good pick made by the previous regime. Good pick. Then the Tavares acquisition was one that people raved about. You've talked at length about it. Was it a good move? Was it a bad move? But what it's done, because of the names I just mentioned and where they've gone in their careers, with Matthews and Marner and Nylander getting huge dollars, which they deserve based on their numbers. Maybe not Nylander quite so much, but maybe not as much as they got, but they paid them. And then you throw in the Tavares. That's the start of your $40 million problem.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. That's it.
Mac, before we go into that, the $40 million problem, I'll even take it back a little bit further. And, when they made the commitment to Brendan Shanahan, and Brendan came out of the NHL office as the senior discipline guy, of course, with the suspensions, we know that. And then the philosophy out there to go get Babcock. And at the time, it was covering the Leafs for Sportsnet. It was a huge story to the point where we had local television now charting flights on the private jet. Where was it? It was in Detroit. It's picking them up here. It's picking them up there. Yeah. They're flying in. It was a hell of a story.
It was. It was exciting.
And it was exciting and one that really changed the feel of the Toronto Maple Leafs with that instant credibility. And yes, people could sit there and say at the end of the day whether or not Babcock was a good pickup or one that ended too early, that he still should be there. We're not going to get into that. But what we are going to say is that Brendan started going down a path where he wanted credible people in the organization, and he got it with Hockey Canada's Babcock, and he also got it with Lou Lamoriello.
Totally.
Right? So when Brendan looks back at that, did he bail too early on both these guys, Mac? Will he look back at it and say that I should have stuck with it longer, or I should have, or did I time it right, or did I even need to go that deep in with reputable people like that? Because with reputable people like that come big egos, Mac. And we heard the stories. We did about who's getting along with who and who agrees with who and who has final say and how much am I involved and when did I cross out of my lane. So Brendan was dealing with a lot on that. Was it worth it when it was all said and done?
Well, they were afraid of losing Kyle Dubas, and they jumped on Lou, which to me was a big mistake. Because when you move Lou out, you've got to move Babcock out, because Lou had his hands full handling Babcock. Let's not kid ourselves. Lou had his hands full dealing with Babcock, but he could deal with him, and he could handle him. You knew there was no chance that Kyle Dubas was going to be able to deal with Babcock. You knew that. And it didn't work. And it wasn't going to work. So that's why moving Lou out, when Lou left, that ended Babcock. And that ended, whether you like Babcock or not, Babcock has a pretty good feel with how teams, and Lou has a feel for how teams have to play at playoff time to be successful. Whether you like them or not, whether you respect them or not, I happen to respect them. When guys have been in the league 20-some years, I tend to respect them, okay? So those were moves that you knew was going down a little different road here. and that's fine. I mean, I look at the management team today of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I look at inexperience. And that's okay. Kyle's a smart guy. I happen to like Kyle. I happen to like the new coach, but it's an inexperienced group. And when you're a general manager, and I was a general manager of a bad team, and I used to sit at playoff time and watch games and say, oh my God, how would my team be performing out there? If you're Kyle and you're watching these games at night and you're trying to analyze how would my team play in this type of hockey, then it helps you decide that you've got to make some changes. And not only at the top of your roster, but really at the bottom of your roster as well.
So now, you're into this phase and you're a couple of seasons in, and now on the horizon is Marner and Matthews, and it looks bright. Matthews sets the league on fire, including his 4-goal performance in his NHL debut.
Wow.
And now you believe that you have something kind of special going on. And yeah, it took longer for Marner to develop than it did Matthews, being a top pick. Whether you agreed with it, I certainly didn't agree with it to the point where, it ticked me off that he was on a fourth line in long stretches. That I said, if you're not going to use the guy, just trade him. That's how frustrated I was on sports.
Well, he is like part of your family.
No, he's not part of my
know
family.
That.
I just watched him a lot in London. I watched the way the Hunters developed him, and he was a special player with Dvorak and, of course, Matthew Tkachuk. You could argue one of the best in history at the junior level. So you knew you had something special with him. Granted, it took a while, and it maybe, in hindsight, Mac, maybe because they slowed down his development and then they sent him back to junior, it screwed up the pay scale, Mac. If it did nothing at all, and you can argue that it was strategic because Matt Marner wouldn't be the player he is now if it wasn't for the nurturing, the development, which I call complete bullshit on. But what it did, Mac, it somehow got these two contracts aligned at the same time. And that was a disaster for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Right.
Having Matthews and Marner contracts come up at the same time. And I do know that Lou Lamoriello, as the general manager of the Leafs, wanted it looked after. Okay? And he wanted to treat Matthews and Marner like Taves and Kane got treated, minus, of course, the Stanley Cup. But at least they would have been identified by Lou Lamoriello as your top two guys, and more importantly, the top two highest paid players. So Lou was prepared to do that. At the end of the day, if Matthews would have ended up with $500,000 or even $1 million more than Marner, Marner's camp would have been fine with that. So if Lou would have had his way, I think you would have saw Matthews at about 10 and maybe Marner come in at 8.5. Right. And I think that would have been okay. But a funny thing happened between that philosophy and where we are today. And that is that Lou lost control. They didn't address those contracts, and the price of poker went up. And you know when it went up? The day Kyle Dubas identified John Tavares.
That's right.
That was never in the tea leaves.
No,
never. Before there was no third wheel coming in. And it was Matthews and Marner, and then Tavares came in and threw the whole thing out of whack.
And where did this come from? Where did it come from? Johnny T was a well-respected player and is a great player, and he's played well for the Leafs. He's played well for the Leafs, and he's been a good player for the. But where does this come from? That with these, it's like Chicago with Kane and Taves going out and bringing in whoever, like a superstar, to play with those guys. A Johnny T with them wouldn't have worked. So same position as Matthews. I mean, I remember you and I talking the day Tavares was signed, and we said, oh, wow, this is terrific. This is unbelievable. This is exciting. But where's his wheels going to be?
No, Mac, I remember that signing. I remember that signing going $11 million and going, where's like, do you not understand that Mike Matthews' group wasn't stupid? I just set records. Okay. I'm not coming in under Tavares. I'm not committing my next 5, 6, 7, 8 years on my second contract and taking a dime less than Tavares. It's not happening.
And not only that, it's also where will he be in 3 or 4 years' time as his wheels continue to deteriorate, because he's not a great skater to begin with. Then it could be really ugly.
But it is. So the money went out of whack when Tavares came in.
And then Nylander comes in at 6.9 or 7, whatever he's at. So all of a sudden, the question is, it's not, we've given the historical perspective now is what you've done. Now we got to figure out how the hell you can fix this, because there is a perception in the league that they're easy to play against, and nobody wants to be known as easy to play against. And I'll tell you what, they're great in the regular season. They play pretty well at times. They play pretty exciting at times. You get spurts of them playing good defensively at times. But this is an ill-constructed lineup. That's what it is today. And it has to be changed.
Mac, so you're easy to play against. So what do? You get rid of Kadri. Tell me where this made any sense at all. You're back
to historical perspective.
Yes.
We're talking about how you fix it. It's too late to fix that. It's too late to fix that.
No, but you need these guys, Mac. You need a Goodrow.
I know you do.
Goodrow. So he goes and fights Matt Martin, for goodness sakes. And I'm not saying that you need that, but you need somebody.
Let's just get you back under wraps here for a minute. First of all, you have to make a decision on your goaltending. Let's start goaltending.
Okay, we'll work from the net out.
So let's start. Freddie Anderson, acquired by Lou Lamoriello, has been a good goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the regular season. He hasn't won at playoff time. He's got a $5 million left. They owe him $1 million cash, so he should be an easy guy to move to some cheaper teams. The question is, if you move Freddie Anderson to me is not the reason they didn't win the first round or didn't beat Columbus or whoever the hell. Yeah, because
you remember back then
they didn't score any damn goals. So is Freddie the problem? Well, Freddie's a problem because he makes $5 million and his contract's coming up. That's where he's a problem, and they have no money. So let's step back one bit. I look at Cap Friendly, and it's their cap situation is somewhere between 6.2 and 7.8 that they have to spend, depending if they put Marincin in the minors, back in the minors, and they put another guy back in the minors. They can get it maybe that they have $7+ million to spend. Well,
that's not getting it done.
No, it's not getting it done. So Freddie Anderson is I know he's not their problem in goal. Are they going to get a better goaltender than Freddie Anderson? Well,
no. I'll tell you what they're going to do.
For money.
They're going to get a cheaper one than Freddie Anderson.
That's right.
That's what they're going to do.
So Murray's name's out there a little bit, and some teams,
Kyle loves Matt Murray. Kyle loves Matt Murray, and it would not surprise me at all that in the Kapanen trade that the discussion about Matt Murray was there. And it's on hold until I can get rid of my $5 million headache. That's where I believe it's at. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but Matt Murray, it seems, is Kyle Dubas's first choice.
Okay, so look, he's won a couple of cups. He's been okay. He was awful this year in the playoffs. He was awful this year in the regular season. Maybe he bounces back for his old junior guy. Well, loving a guy in junior is a lot different than loving a guy in the NHL.
No.
But Matt, I get that. And I don't have a problem if they want to do Murray. It saves them a couple of $1 million in cap space. I don't have a problem with that. If they can move Freddie, I don't have a problem with that deal. So, and they got Jack Campbell, who.
Well, I was just going to mention. No, Mac. He's just not okay. They think they're grooming him to be number one.
Well, he's okay for me. He's just okay for me. I'm not counting on Jack Campbell winning. I know he's another Sault Ste. Marie guy.
They like him.
I know they like him. They also like Freddie Anderson, and they like this guy, and they like that guy. I'm just saying who we like. Are you counting on Jack Campbell to be a number one guy to lead you to the Stanley Cup?
They want to find out next season, so they're gonna bridge a goaltender in, and then they're gonna give Jack every opportunity to show that he can be a number one goalie, which they think in 2 years he will be.
Well, let's hope they're right. So that's fine. So they're goaltending. Freddie, I'm not sold. Freddie to me is not the problem whatsoever. Not the problem whatsoever. Except he hasn't won in the playoffs.
That's a big except, Mac.
Except
that's a big except.
Except the problem. He had a bunch of guys that wouldn't play in front of him in the playoffs, that couldn't score, that wouldn't compete, that wouldn't do what you have to do to win at playoff time. So don't throw this on Freddie's doorstep. They were getting 1 goal a game, 2 goals a game, and you're throwing this on Freddie's doorstep. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not buying it. There was a lot bigger problems at playoff time than Freddie Anderson.
Okay, so
they can fix their goaltending.
Marincin to the minors ain't getting it done to fix their cap. So where do they go now? Kerfoot, Johansson are as good as done right now. You've got to unload those contracts.
Well, you got Johansson at 3.4, and you got Kerfoot at 3.5.
Gone. Bye-bye.
I mean, so and number one, before you even look at their salaries, I don't want them as my third line guys at playoff time. They're great third line guys in the regular season, but I don't want those as my third line guys at playoff time because they get eaten alive by third lines that we see that are playing well. So that third line has to be reconstructed. So you've got to desperately get it cheaper than what it is right now. And then I look at their fourth line. So the third line is fine. Kapanen's already gone, so he can be replaced. But this was almost $11 million third line that we blamed Freddie Anderson. What the hell did this line do in the playoffs? What did they do?
I give you that. I'll give you that. No,
Johnson,
and I'm not.
In fairness to Johnson, he didn't play.
I'm not pinning this on goaltending. This is not just a goaltending issue. This is right through the lineup. So they leak oil in many places here. Okay,
so we've discussed the goaltending. We know their third line has to be reconstructed. I'm not in love with their fourth line. Clifford's a battler. Spets is a great guy.
Yeah, no, those
are
spare parts, Mac.
That's right. They're spare parts.
They're seat fillers at the Academy Awards. You go up, so your A-lister goes to the bathroom. Your Kramer, go and sit in there and wait for the star to come back.
So we've saved a couple million on our. Well, we may have saved $3.5-4 million on our reconstruction. Maybe we've saved that much. So now the big question is what. And we're going to leave their top 6 for now because Nylander to me is. I mean, you try to save him, but he may have to go. But what happens to this back end for them to become competitive? Where do they go with this back end? I'm a Riley fan. I happen to like Dermott. I don't mind Hall, and I like Muzzin. So we've got 4 guys. We got 3.5 pieces. Dermott's got to be a lot better. He needs a new contract. He's got to be a lot better for me. Riley, I love. You need 2 right shot defensemen.
Yeah.
And where are you going to get in your top 4? That's what they need.
They need a bona fide number 1 with a right-handed shot.
That's right.
Pietrangelo is out there. Can you paint any scenario that they could afford $8+ million a year?
That's the challenging part. If they listen to the expertise we've been spewing here, which I think is a good way of saying it. Here's your right shot defensemen that are available. Pietrangelo, right shot. Tanev, right shot. Vatanen right shot, Hamonic right shot, Shattenkirk right shot, DeMello right shot.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
where's it go there?
And
then you move down and you see, then you're into the Parekos, you're into, Sketcher, you're into Manson. I mean, you're into Pesci, you're into, some of these types of guys. So the number one thing they have to do is, how do they get two right-hand defensemen that are top four guys? Pietrangelo is the dream guy. It's not going well in St. Louis, we're led to believe. Is there any way they can get him to come back to Toronto? And is there any way they can come up with their $8 million? Well, they got to get rid of some of these contracts. Is how they can get Pietrangelo.
Let's face it, Mac.
To start.
It's Nylander's contract.
That's right.
That's right. That's it in a nutshell.
That's right.
So the question is, does Kyle cut his losses? To that famous quote, can you sign all these guys? We can and we will.
Right.
And the promise that you're not going to be traded, all of that, you just suck it up and try to move him out as much as you can. The issue, Mac, is I'm not sure he's liking what he's hearing out there and what teams are willing to give up for Nylander. Now, if you're Columbus,
it's a whole
you're desperate for scoring, right? So you got to tell me that it should be fairly easy to move him out. The question is, how high of a price are you asking for him?
Well, I mean, the question is, can you get a Savard plus? Can you get a right shot defenseman who's a shutdown top four guy and who's a secondary guy for me? I love Savard, but he's a second. So if you got Pietrangelo and you could get Savard as a part of a deal, then we're talking. But you need the big horse. You need the big horse on the back end first. We talked about Nylander the day he was signed, that he might be easy to move because of his offensive production. Now we've got a flat cap out there. Now we've got a challenging time to move $7 and $8 million players. That changes the perspective a little bit. But so that's major reconstruction we're talking here. If you're going to keep your big three up front, you dangle this guy, Nylander, and see where it goes. But that's a lot of work. But if you don't get two top four defensemen, I'm sure Liljegren and Sandin, they're good prospects. They're not the answer right now. You need two guys in your top four to play with Riley and Muzzin. That's what you need. Okay. I mentioned the name Doughty. I mean, I know Doughty, all he does is play 30 minutes. People don't like him. He's played with Muzzin. I mean, is there a deal that you could make work with Nylander and him? I mean, to LA have got to make a bunch of changes. LA want to make a bunch of changes. Can you do something there? I know Doughty's up. What's Doughty, 30 now?
He's just in his second year of his new deal, isn't he?
Yeah, and people say, well, Doughty. All I know is Doughty still plays close to 30 minutes a game, and he's a gamer. Plays with, and he's a Muzzin guy. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that's the type of player. They've got to get two real players on their right side, on their back end, and then they can fill in with what they have.
Leaf fans would take one, Mac.
Just make
sure it's the right one that can play 25 minutes a night and be your best defenseman.
What did I just tell you? Hedman's at 29 minutes. Yeah. We've seen Pietrangelo play 27 in the playoffs against Vancouver. And if you got that guy that's 25 to 28, and then you can move, and then we saw them move the Shens in and the Shattenkirks and these guys at 16 to 18 minutes. Yeah. It changes the workload for everybody. But until Mac, they do that,
I want to end the Leaf discussion on this note. Okay, Brendan Shanahan, 6 years. Unfortunately, these jobs, and you've lived it. They don't last forever. At some point, people want change. They want a new philosophy. We're not at that point when we look at Brendan Shanahan. But how long is that point? 6 years now into his tenure as a president and governor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And where does it go from here? You assume that he got one bullet on the firing of, or the not renewing Lou Lamoriello. the Babcock, and now is it Leaf fans, media? How long do they give Brendan Shanahan to go find your right-handed defenseman?
Well, what's happening with the playoff failures, and I know they're young guys still, and that's what we keep talking about. They're young guys, they're young guys, they're young guys. But with each playoff failure, the pressure just goes through the roof. And I dare say that this season is a critical season for Kyle Dubas and for Brendan Shanahan. And look, I can't say either one of them. They haven't done. They've done a good job. I mean, this team was a disaster when they took over, according to them. According to them, this team was a disaster when they took over. They went to 30th place because they cleaned house. They got rid of everybody. I'm not sure, was the team as this bad at times before they came? I don't know. I mean, I guess they were. So, I mean, they've got another year to fix this up, and then they're going to be under extreme
That's
heat.
not what I asked you. Does Brendan Shanahan lose his job if they don't get past the first round in the playoffs?
No, Brendan Shanahan doesn't lose his job.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you why. Kyle Dubas will lose his first.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to get to.
Brendan Shanahan. I hope that doesn't happen.
Brendan Shanahan has another card to play that he could fire Kyle Dubas.
Most definitely.
On another bad season. So.
But here's the thing another thing that bothers me a little bit about their management team. I look at their management team, and I happen to like Kyle Dubas, and I think he's a very smart young guy. Okay? But I look after Kyle Dubas, and if Brendan Shanahan is not giving him big-time advice into the construction of this hockey team, who's giving Kyle advice? And I can guarantee you this, as a manager in hockey, you need big time advice from your senior management people.
Who you hope would have a lot of NHL experience, winning culture experience, and that's what they're lacking. That's outside of Brendan Shanahan, they lack in that management team winning culture experience.
And Brendan Shanahan is that. He's not but
now he's alone.
Brendan has got to get in there and be. And he might be. Is he the guy? Is he in Kyle's ear all the time about every transaction? Probably.
I assume Brendan doesn't want those guys around Mac, or else he would have had them. Mac, I'll go even further. And we've been talking about the Leafs for half an hour now. We didn't even mention Mark Hunter. We didn't.
Oh, I know.
There's your ultimate hockey culture winning kind of. He knows. He played.
I get that, but he didn't have the NHL experience, in my opinion. And I think Mark would have been is an excellent choice as a GM. But I mean, and he should get a GM's job anytime.
Mark has winning culture experience, Mac.
He does. But I don't. If he was the guy, that's fine. I'm just telling you, Dubas needs to surround himself with more experienced guys. And we've seen it happen all over the league. Where experienced guys come in. It goes back to Craig Patrick bringing in Scotty Bowman. Craig Patrick bringing in experienced people around him to win Stanley Cups. I'm sorry, when I look past Kyle, who I have, as I said, I don't see enough with him in the management side other than Brendan. And if Brendan's not going to get his Kodiaks on instead of those $1 million shoes he wears, I don't see him being in the trenches with him.
And where's your closet full of Kodiaks?
My Kodiaks went in the closet with a lot of other people's.
Wow, you were on fire today. Is the jersey still on the hanger? Did it fall? It's leaning towards one side?
We didn't say they needed but they certainly could use them. But look, I want the Leafs to do well. I really do. And as I said, I like Kyle, and I think, and I like Brendan Shanahan, so I hope they listen to us. I hope they take it as constructive advice, and we'll see where it goes. But I haven't heard a lot about their third line. I hate that third line. I can't stand watching that third line. So anyway, we'll see where it goes.
I noticed you also positioned the Leaf jersey right next to the electric socket. Can you plug it in? Maybe that's the energy they need.
Okay.
Wow, we went heavy. We went heavy.
I gotta play golf.
We went heavy. There's so much more I wanted to talk to you about today, but you're going to be actually around tomorrow and Wednesday, correct?
If you need me, yeah. And there's no doubt you do.
And because we're yes, we're going to rearrange your schedule a little bit. So
yes, that's right.
Tomorrow we're also going to get into the Montreal Canadiens. They of course traded for Edmondson with Carolina. We're going to talk to Doug about what that means. We'll talk a little bit more on, of course, the conference final. There's a lot more to chew on, and we'll bring you back tomorrow. Okay, Mac?
That's great, because I have some bad news for you. On Thursday, I am heading to Cape Breton to play the Cabot Cliffs and Cabot Links.
Without me?
Two of the top 7 golf courses in the world. And fans out there, if you haven't heard about Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs, you've got to check it out. They are spectacular courses.
Well, we might have to just try to kind of get you via satellite phone or something, just for
take the line movement camper van maybe down, because I know from Sydney, Nova Scotia into there it's close. So maybe the line movement have their little camper you could borrow if you get down there.
I assume you're taking your RV out there.
We're taking our RV over, yes, because we're going to stop on the way, but we're going to stay at the lodge there at Inverness, so it'll be right at Cabot Cliff. So it's beautiful setup. Little treat for Jill's wedding anniversary.
We had a treat today, getting the best out of you for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and if you liked it, hit the like, smash the like button for Doug Maclean. Great job today, Matt.